Flanagan. Mr. McLaughlin.
Here.
Mr. Harrison.
Here.
Robin Chiarelli. Absent. Mr. Dennison. Absent. Ms. Norvell.
Here.
Mr. Franks.
Here.
Mr. Boyer. Absent. Mr. Knopf. Absent. Ms. George.
Here.
And Chair Morley.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you very much. Like a motion to approve the September 1st meeting. I make a motion. Steve Whitten, do I have a second?
Second.
Novell Norval, thank you. Any questions or comments on the minutes? All in favor of approving them as written?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Minutes are approved from the previous meeting. Okay, we have a new member to introduce tonight, Miss Elizabeth George. Ms.
Well,
Welcome.
first off, thank you very much. I'm excited about joining this group. I have been a boater my entire life. I started my boating up in New England, so I've been on boats, everything from little itty bitty kayaks and sailboats up to 40-foot yachts. Presently, I live at Portofino, so right on the water with just a mere 27-foot scout, but it's, as my husband calls it, in my Bostonian accent, it's a bar hopper. So, or translate bar hopper. I've been actively involved in the marina work that's going on for the new marina that's right next to us because I'm on the CBA board and I participate representing the CBA on that activity in the HOA meeting. So that's it for me.
Welcome
Thank
aboard.
you.
We look forward to having your view and experience and perspective on things. So
Great.
it means a lot to us. Thank you very much for joining us. First item tonight, Sergeant, want to go ahead with the Waterway Crime and Building Safety Report?
Yes, sir. So for the month of September, it's actually more of a quiet month for us for crimes. We only had 2 boat burglaries. One at 2201 Southeast 18th Street where 2 Garmin GPSs were taken, and one at 960 Northeast 20th Ave where some tools and equipment were taken. It seems like this group is more set their sights on Miami-Dade. There's 2 or 3 groups usually that do these burglaries. I'm in contact with our partners down there, and they've been getting hit harder than we have, so it seems like they've been making the rounds. So, with these 2 burglaries, it doesn't look like there was any evidence or any video taken, so it's going to be tough to follow up on that. The best route to follow up is through the pawn shops and offer ups and different things, and maybe some information from snitches or something like that would give us the route. Hopefully I'm seeing a trend of more people registering their Garmins, or at least having serial numbers. That way we can put them into the database. So if for some reason these people get stopped at Miami-Dade, then they can run it through NCIC and they know they come from here. And at the very least, people can get their equipment back. We had 2 minor boating accidents with no injuries, and the unit ran a total of 66 citations.
Okay. All right.
And of course, we're just gearing up for the boat show.
Yeah, that'll be our big thing. Any update from the tug that ran aground on the beach and that was at 15th Street for a little while?
Yeah, I wasn't working that day, but he, I think, did the right thing to save the tug instead of it sinking.
Yeah.
He was able to get it off himself without being towed. And then it was sat at 15th Street for a little bit and then was removed, towed back. No issues there.
Good. I understand we have a new code compliance vessel that's docked at your facility now for the
We
city?
do. The code compliance officer, instead of, normally what would happen is they would contact us to take 1 or 2 of the code guys out and check houses. So they secure their own funds and we're able to get their own vessel so they can go out and check the code enforcement investigations on their own instead of relying on us. And so that's great because it takes a person out of pocket for me for a few hours every week, because we can't respond to crimes in progress if we have a civilian on our vessel. So,
Absolutely.
yeah, they got I think it's probably about a 23-foot fluid rib with a 150 mercury on it. So it's perfect for what they do use it with. So
Right.
hopefully they'll be getting into a little more places and work on a lot of these code issues that we're having in the city.
Yeah. I'm glad they're freeing you guys up to focus on primary mission there, so, okay. Any questions from the board for the sergeant tonight?
Sergeant, let me ask you something. You mentioned you got a code thing and stuff. Boat out of the water on a trailer, or let's say you also one on a boat lift, they have to be registered?
On a trailer? Yeah,
I mean, I know you have to have, because you're in there, the trailer itself has to have the DOT thing and everything else.
Yeah.
But I was talking about the boat, and also one that's in the travel lift sitting behind the house. It's up on a travel lift, not in the water, but up on a travel lift. Does it need to have registration?
yeah, it does, yeah. So code enforcement would be able to get you for that, because any registrable vehicle has to be currently registered. So a vessel, a trailer, a car, a motorcycle, that kind of stuff has to be registered per the city code.
Sergeant, was the robbery you mentioned on 20th Avenue, is that on a yacht?
Yes. Well, a bigger boat, I would say it's fully out, a bigger boat, yeah.
The boat show, the dock installation, is that all going smooth? Any issues or extra
Yeah.
help you need, or?
It seems to be going smooth. I think the only issue that Inform is having is that area where the new Los Olas Marine is going, and that's usually was their staging point, where they don't have that now. So it looks like they're staging a lot of the docks in the mooring field. So I talked to him today on the phone, and he seems to think everything's going fine, so we haven't noticed anything out of the ordinary traveling through there.
Just a quick update on that from the HOA meeting that we have with the marina is they're actually using the lands for staging that's on the south side of the bridge. So because the boat show will not go beyond Las Olas Bridge. It's gonna be south because there's not as many boats registered to come in this year.
Interesting. Last question I have for you, Sergeant, with regards to the boat show, all your own people, are you taking mutual aid from people, or do you have enough?
No, we have, so it's, for us, it's a detail, instead of a city overtime.
Okay.
So, by our contract, I can't compel my officers to work that, I can't order them to work it, but to me, if you're in the unit, you know it's the deal, so, or you gotta work it, or you're gonna be taking shift pick for the road. So I haven't had any problems with that, so all of our times, we're all filled with all of our guys. I mean, I'm working kind of about, all the guys are working at least 4 shifts in there, and I'm guys working 5, so. But, no issues with that at all.
Great, thank you. Anything else for Sergeant tonight, guys?
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Appreciate it. Thank you for your service also. All right, moving on to item 6. Dock waiver request for 2150 Southeast 23rd Avenue. When you come up, please state your name for the record. We have accurate minutes.
Absolutely. Good evening, Chair, members of the board. My name is Andrew Shine with Lockery and Chakas, here representing Helen and Michael Scalisi, the property owners. If I can navigate to this. So the property is outlined in red, 2150 Southeast 23rd Avenue. The property is in a fairly unique area. The criteria for this is extraordinary, or extraordinary. This property is located at the juncture of 3 fairly large marinas. We've got Marina Mile Yachting Center, Yacht Haven, and Port 32, all within about 300 feet of this property. And across 95, we have Lauderdale Marine Center as well. It's subject to fairly large boat traffic, a lot of wakes in this area. There's no drawbridge at 95, so folks tend to go a little fast through here. We are proposing 2 dolphin piles 45 feet away from the property. Measuring the distance of this is a little tough given the unique nature. If we were to really just take it at the exact diagonal angle, we've got a 1,000-foot width waterway there, but I did provide a couple of dimensions just showing different ways to measure the width of this waterway here. At its lowest point, it's about 171 feet, highest about 212. Percentage-wise, the mooring piles would be between 21.2% and 26.3%, the width of the waterway. I do have support letters that I can pass around if needed. Those are outlined in blue are the people that we did get letters of support from, definitely the most affected folks coming off of the canal there. And we also do have a support letter that was included in the backup from Steel Towing, just reassuring that this is not going to affect towing capacity or navigation of the waterway in this area. So that's the request. I'm here for any questions, but it's a fairly unique property and extraordinary here.
What size boat are you putting there?
There's no set size for a boat right now. That boat that's on that aerial is not there, but no set size for a boat.
How big is that boat on the aerial?
That boat's about 65, but it's not there and it's not going to be docked there.
Any other questions?
The reason I ask that is because the variances that people get, the variance is actually made on the structure itself. Once you get a variance and stuff over there, it actually takes that 25 foot out of play. And what we have found is that people, when they get a variance, whatever it may be, if they say they're gonna put like a 50-foot boat there, which would be adequate for what they put in there, all of a sudden it becomes an 85 or 90-foot boat. And as long as you're within the third of the river, so you say, well, I'm still in compliance, which according to what it is, that's why I was asking about the size of the boat. Because as far as I'm concerned, the boat has more problems with navigation and safety than does the dock coming out. That's why I was interested in the size of the boat, so.
Understood. Yeah, I think they have a 30-footer now and a 40-footer or so. What's going to be there in the future, I mean, I can't speak to that, but these are single mooring piles, so, you know, safety-wise, you can't tie up a huge boat there.
You'd be surprised.
You can't safely tie up a huge boat there. But there's no limit in our mind at this point.
So you stated in your application that it was for a safely mooring of the owner's boat.
Yes.
Singular there. Looking at the structure that you're requesting waivers for, we've got basically somewhere between 4 or 5 vessels could potentially be moored there. So one of the questions that we ask on behalf of the city is the owner planning on renting the docks? Are these all his own vessels?
Yeah, do not plan on renting the docks at all. The Scalisi family is fairly tight-knit. They have family members come in from the Northeast, drive their boats down and dock here, but no, there will be absolutely no renting of docks.
Okay.
And frankly, no boats that are not in the Scalisis.
Okay. So I believe that's RS8 zoning, I think, on a city map for that area. So it's under the current statutes, renting is forbidden anyway. so-
Absolutely no renting.
Okay, thank you for clarifying that. And so you're envisioning how many vessels there, just to clarify?
There's spots for 4. It depends on the time of year. Most of the time, it's only the owner's boat. But depending on the time of year when the rest of the family comes down, it could be between 3 and 4 there.
Okay. And I noticed on the, one last question, I noticed on the tax record that they have a different mailing address. So is this property occupied by the Scalisi family, or are they renting it, or what's the status of the property?
Mr. Scalisi, it's,
Oh. The owner's here.
yeah, he's the owner's son.
Yeah, I'm just here for
You
my
have to
parents.
come on up here and identify yourself for the record, please. Thank you. Yeah, if you just, so the question pertains to the property itself. Just identify yourself for the record and.
I'm Mike Scalisi Jr. I'm here on behalf of my parents. They're snowbirds from Boston. They come down seasonally. You know, my father brings his boat down, my brother brings his boat down. We don't rent the house. It's just, I hang out in that cool waterfront lot with my kids and swim in the pool on the weekends. And we kind of use it, and I kind of keep an eye on the property for my parents since they're seasonal.
Gotcha.
I live on the east side of town, maybe 5 minutes away on the other side of US 1.
You on the Southeast 12th Court is your address? then?
Correct,
Okay.
yes, correct. Southeast 12th Court is that's my address.
Gotcha. That explains mailing address. Okay, thank you. Going back to the board, Barry, any questions? You had some.
The boat lift is in place now?
Yes, yes,
There is a boat lift?
yes.
What's the weight capacity of that boat lift?
That's 12,000 pounds, sir.
I mean, a small one.
Yeah, it has my 28-foot Mako sits in it.
Okay. I was just gonna say, because, depending on how the one thing I have with problems with some of these boat lifts, if they get up into the 20,000 and stuff over there, and they put the boat in, stern back towards the thing, the bow sticks out quite a ways. Of course, you're still within the range you have. One of the things you have going for you is what I've been saying and stuff all the time. You happen to have one of the people that would be, would benefit or would not benefit from you going out in the water, and that's your steel towing. So that's somebody that has commerce on the water, and that's what I'm interested in before I make any kind of my own judgment, where I make a call for yay or nay. Because if I think that you're going to impede on any of the commerce on the river, I like to get a hold of the people that would be impacted by that. And Jimmy Steele, I said I had talked to him personally, and he doesn't have a problem with it.
Okay. Coming back to the board, any other questions for the applicant's representative? Any comments or questions from the public on this issue? Okay, back to the board. Any last minute thoughts before we,
Do we have any objections, did you?
were there any letters of objection?
No, I noticed everybody within 300 feet, all private residences, and there were no objections.
Before I call for a vote, I want to kind of speak a little bit to what Norbert was speaking about there with regards to the new river. And what people may not be aware of is that the Coast Guard's actually designated the new river as a commercial waterway first. So its primary purpose is commercial operations and commercial traffic. So we always, as a board, look at that. So anytime we're going to be impeding that or creating a navigational or safety risk, that's always a major concern for us. So thank you for having Steel Towing's letter. That does help us. He is a primary user of that area, so it's important to have that perspective. So thank you very much for that. Really appreciate that effort. If there's no other questions or comments, I'd like to call.
I do have a question. Just in general, and no disrespect to council, you asked whether or not we'd be renting docks, and the answer was no. We asked how many boats will be there, and we talked in general terms. After this is either approved or turned down, does any of this mean anything? The fact that somebody said we're not renting docks, it means nothing after this conversation, am I correct?
It becomes an issue for zoning compliance and zoning enforcement. In this, as I say, in this zoning area is RS8, under the current statutes, dock rental is illegal in that area.
I know that.
So it's wink, wink, nod, nod sometimes. It's not enforced unless there's a complaint. If there's a complaint, Travis and code enforcement, everybody else has the abilities to go in there and actually create a report. And what's that process look like, Sergeant?
It's really code enforcement's purview more than the police department's purview for that. I mean, obviously, I think, what I do know about it, I mean, you're gonna have to prove that it's a rental dock, because usually the answer is, oh, no, that's my friend's, I don't charge him anything. So we don't have like a stand on, it's getting proof that there's a business transaction.
I just think so much thought, Norbert, he talks about it all the time, so much thought goes into our conversations and approvals. But for all intents and purposes, after the meeting, there's no deed restriction, there's nothing that forces anybody to follow through on that, so just general.
Yeah, all we can do is vote on the structures themselves. Use of the structure and boats that are being put there, et cetera, are all beyond our purview at this time, so.
Okay, that brings up an interesting point, though, Ted. In the past, we have put restrictions on the size of the vessels, why I brought that up.
Right.
All right. Which, what I found out to be a fact, has no meaning,
No.
what Steve was saying.
None.
Because I looked at the properties that they said they won't have anything more than a 65-foot boat, there's an 85-foot there. One place, believe it or not, I went into Westport there, they weren't supposed to have any more than an 80. At Westport, the smallest one make is 112 feet, all right? So even though we put restrictions through that, it never comes on the permit to build that there is a restriction on that particular area.
Right.
And like what Steve was saying, you would think that if we make a proposal of limiting the size of the boat that can be there, that doesn't happen. There already recently, and I'm not mentioning any names, but in the last couple months, I went and checked where there was 70-foot boat that was out of there. There's now an 80 in there, which if you look at the math, they're within inches of being in the 30% rule. They've already went out 10 feet more than they suggested they would do.
Yep.
So I don't know what the answer to that is, because when it goes to permitting, that restriction does not get in there for some reason.
I agree. I don't wanna murky up the water on this issue, but that discussion needs to happen as a future issue, future item. All we can do per our charter is study and recommend to the city commission. City commission has the right to either accept or reject our recommendations. And so it's important we have those conversations and get them on the record, but again.
That's why I want it on the record.
Yep, absolutely. All right, so anything further, Jimmy?
Yeah, I just wanted to further to emphasize the importance of the letter from Jim Steele on this, and that, with Jim Steele or Courtney Day,
Yeah.
The towboat operators that, because that's really the guys who are the ones that get interfered the most, and that's would be the interference of the marinas up the river. So the weight of that letter, is huge.
Absolutely.
If it weren't for that letter, I would really be questioning this whole thing.
Good point.
Because this, potentially at the width of the river at this point, this could be a 60-foot boat, put in there. They're asking for 45 feet going out, which it could actually have a 60-foot boat. And having grown up down the river, from there, it does put quite a jog in the river. So if they do this on the other side of the river, then it's a problem. So the other side is going to won't be allowed to do what they're doing on this side of the river to be within the thing. We would have a big problem with that. If the boatyard on the other side,
Right.
wanted to put a boat sticking straight out.
Yeah, they wouldn't be able to.
Really do that. It's something that, it seems that we have a wave of these type of, things coming before us. It scares me, the gauntlet that's being created on New River. The commercial aspect of the river is extremely important. The marine industry is working, with the Coast Guard to actually nationalize the river.
Right.
This could be a federal river. So, and with that, at some point, probably at our next meeting, I'd like to, because I don't have it thought through at this meeting, but to begin to ask for a moratorium on all exceptions, going on the river itself. Until we come up with a plan, better plan in the city, because we're working on old information, we'll wire the things the way that they were, and it's something we had a Marine charrette, a while back on, what are the important things in the city, and the types of boats, the way that boats are docked along the river is becoming more and more important that we're finding. So anyway, mainly just to stress the importance of actually, and I'm very, proud that Robert did, go out and actually get the towboats letter of approval, as opposed to just the neighbors in there. So that's, anyone in the future, if anyone's listening, that's the thing to do, is address that ahead of time, bringing that in. That carries a lot of weight. That's all I got. Thanks.
And thank you, Jimmy. I think the conversation for the future is certainly one that has to be had. We are seeing larger and larger vessels coming up and down the New River. Commercial traffic's getting bigger, it's getting busier. So those complications all have to be weighed on that. So that'll be a interesting discussion in the future. Are there any other questions or comments on this application for this person? No? We have a member of the public who wants to speak?
Yeah.
Please come up here and identify yourself for the record, sir. Thank you.
My name's Mike Resta. I live across the canal from Mr. Scalisi, who's looking for an extension on the dolphin poles.
Which house is yours, just to clarify, if you could show us, please?
Alrighty,
Okay,
this one in blue.
gotcha, okay.
My wife and I have been in that property 35 years. 15 years prior to that, we lived right next door with only 20 feet of seawall. A property in between ours and the new Port 32 boatyard. I was at the city meetings discussing the Port 32 development, and whatever I was pushing for didn't get, and the result for me is a daily dose of diesel fumes in my yard and prop wash, constantly putting silt up into my dock. But that was then, this is now. Mr. Scalisi is looking for a 20-foot extension. The river is almost 300 feet wide at that point. Just yesterday, Peterson Fuel, as he always does, anchors his fuel boat off to the eastern side of the river, near the mangroves of the boatyard that was just discussed before. So Peterson's fuel boat is probably 14, 15 feet wide, and next to him comes a 90 to 100-foot boat, and he sits there for over an hour getting I don't know how many hundreds or 1,000 gallons of fuel. Now, with him and the 100-foot boat next to him, there was still plenty of room for people, and towboats came by with another 100-plus foot boat, plenty of room. My neighbor's asking for 20 feet. We've all witnessed what's gone on in Fort Myers with these boats breaking off all over the place. If he has an 80-foot that's in his yard now docked, and he tries to dolphin pole the lines with the kind of storm surge that just went on in Fort Myers, there's just not enough swing in the line. And like so many people, it just rips cleats right out of the boat and ends up impaling itself on your own house. I can't imagine that 20 more feet would be a problem for navigation in an almost 300-foot wide area, even if the boatyard decides to straight in and out boats dockage. There's still plenty of room. These rules need to be made for everybody, not just the businesses. And speaking of the towboat guys, these guys are the worst river offenders there is. When they're not towing a big boat, they're piggyback one toe in the other. They're making wakes that I'm constantly having to rebuild piling bumpers because of the wakes these guys throw. It's a business. They need to move. They need to make money. I understand, but they need to behave like everybody else. So to make an exception so that they can move this and that, and well, it needs to be considered, but I don't know about making an exception for them. They're just another business. And it seems like business gets all of the thought and homeowners get little or none. I don't see that what my neighbor is asking for is outrageous or even unusual. Right around the corner, here's a fella here. He's got a 45 and a 48-foot sport fish docked in and out. And of course, you can see, here's Marina Bay. They've got 100, 200-foot long floating docks.
Marina Bay's a different issue, so.
Okay, different issue,
Thank you.
but they can do that. My neighbor's looking for 20 feet.
Understood. So you're in support of this?
Yes, I am.
Great, thank you very much, sir. Appreciate your input.
Yep.
Thank you very much. All right, anybody else from the public want to speak? For or against? No. Back to the board. Any other questions or follow-up discussion? I'd like to call for a motion on the item. Do we have a motion to approve?
Motion approved.
Bob Franks, motion to approve. Do we have a second?
second.
Robin Chiarelli, second. Any further discussion? Okay. We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you all. Have a great
Thank
night.
you very much for your presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Okay. Thank you very much. Moving on to our next order of business is another dock waiver request for 1215 Seminole Drive. James and Darlene Barron. We have Paul Mormondo.
Thank you, everybody. Good evening, folks. Excuse me, I don't have a slide, but there are photos in your package that kind of explain real simple what is happening here and what we're proposing. My name is Frank Romando. I'm with Bottom Line Construction Manager. We do permit expediting for several marine contractors here in our nice city. What Mr. Barron is proposing before the board is he's purchased this property at 1215 Seminole Drive on Seminole Lake. If you look at your property appraiser's photo of this property, you'll notice that it's in Seminole Lake, and it's almost in the category of the Seminole Lake. where it kind of just ends up in a horseshoe type situation. His bulkhead to the bulkhead across the canal is over 300 feet, which is illustrated again by the measurement on the property appraisals. It's in your package. The project consists of a 95-foot seawall, which is going to be repaired, brought up to the new seawall height requirements per the new ordinances. And we are also looking to put two 39-foot concrete piers, which would be 14 feet more than the present code allows from the wet face of the seawall. Also, on the west side of the property, he is proposing a 30K four-post boat lift, which is inside the 10-foot setbacks that is required for such a structure. At this point, we have just pretty much that's it, folks. It's pretty straightforward. Removing the old dock. The reason for it would be to help him aid in his getting the boat out of the water due to it's a go fast in there. There's also it will not exceed more than 30 feet of the waterway, which is one of the requirements. The proposed structures are for the safe mooring of his vessels, especially during high wind, and severe weather, and king tide. And the proposed structure is also necessary to protect his vessels from high wave energy. That's from excessive boat wakes. That there's a lot of jet skiing and wakeboarding in that back of that area there. Like I said, in the proposal, you see the difference we're requesting for each particular area for the boat lift, the east pier and the west pier. That's basically it. We have obtained all approvals from Army Corps of Engineers, Florida Department of Environmental Protection, and Broward County has issued their general license. I just got Army Corps this morning. So we're here to rely upon your good judgment and graces to approve this waiver.
Okay, thank you very much, Frank. Going to the board first, are there any questions or discussion points for this applicant?
I have the markings on your property and stuff over here. Which one of these properties is the one that we're talking about? This one?
Yes, that one.
This one here?
Yep. Has the,
Oh, yours is in black and white.
it's a steamer with a pool in the back of the house.
What is that, what's that, a barge or something over there to the left?
You know, it was something that was a Google Earth picture, sir. That was probably a barge, a work barge, or some sort of marine barge that was probably doing construction when that particular picture was taken. I do have some current photos of the existing structure itself that shows really nothing there at all. His neighbors have no docks. You can pass those out, sir, please, I'm sorry.
No, please.
I should have done, I didn't realize we should have done this.
Perfectly okay.
Picture's worth 1,000 words.
Absolutely.
Blah, 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 blah.
What I'm looking at is your piece of property and stuff, or the piece of property you're putting in here. What I always look at when I see one of these circular deals whatsoever is whatever you're putting on your property protrudes out, and I'm looking at your existing property. I know when obviously these lines are your property lines, correct? That are on there? That are on your drawing? They're the property lines?
Yeah.
Okay, so what I'm getting at is, I've seen like over in Idlewild, they have the same situation where they have, the properties are not squared off. So the property to the left, I don't know whether that's, let's see, is, you have a map on here that's north and south?
I would call that, probably the south, yes.
Okay, so the property on the south side and the stuff over there, I'm seeing that, whatever he has in there, little islands or whatever that's, and I don't know what some of these construction started or.
Yeah.
But anyway, you're looking to go out how far, was it 21 feet, is that what you're saying?
It would be a total of 39 feet for the two piers, and then 32 feet for the end of the boat lift. So basically, I know when we submit our stuff for review with the city, you have to draw a straight line, especially in these pie-shaped areas. You gotta draw that, and you gotta kind of be away from that. That particular line heads towards a southerly direction, so we don't feel that affects that particular area there.
Yeah, I said, I'm looking at, when I ran the lines out there close, but not the same as where you're looking at the distance on that piece. So where are you putting this dock on? Are you putting it on the, what you're looking at now would be the north side? Is that where the dock is going in the middle?
You'll see like where the arrow is, it's basically in this, the dock itself will run property line to property line. The pier is, if you look on S4 on your drawings, will run 15 feet from the north side and then 22 feet in from the south side, giving a 5-foot setback for the outer edge of the boat lift, and a 10-foot setback from the pier on that side.
Okay, so you're basically gonna follow the property line out where you are, saying what you have to do with your easement and stuff over there, you're gonna follow the property line, you're not going perpendicular to the property.
No, I have to, for lack of a better word, go a little jagad with it so that it goes within the setback because of the high shape of that property.
The property to your, the top property to your, to the left of you, or what you're calling the south side and stuff over there, actually, they would be restricted, if anything, they're going out over there on the side, not from you, but I said
That would be on their side, yes.
Yeah, Norbert, I believe that property is one that we gave a waiver to already
It is.
a while back.
Yeah.
what, the one on the south side?
Yeah, the one on the south side. It would have been helpful to have had that included in some of the.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying, is we gave a waiver to them, but they didn't build what they were gonna do there yet?
Looks like they built something. It's in the photo here as far as the one dock looks new, and then there's the barge that would have been doing the work. I don't recall what we actually.
What the size is? How far out? Is it, you would answer that, does your neighbor have a dock out there now?
No.
They don't have any, so they didn't build anything out there
I
yet?
don't know what he did, he just put them there.
So there's a dock on the south side.
Okay. That's probably what that barge was doing there.
Yeah, that's the picture that day.
So just a point of clarification then, for that shared property line, I think that Norbert's talking about, that's where on the boat lift side, is what you're referencing, Norbert?
Yeah, that's the boat lift side, on the south side, there's a boat lift side, if I'm not mistaken, that's.
If we extend out either on the plane, same angle plane as the property line, or perpendicular to the seawall, either plane, to me, that boat lift becomes a problem. To me, it's certainly within the 5-foot setback, but the vessel that's on it, there's no way that vessel can be 10 foot in from the property line. It's just mathematically impossible. It's, if the edge of the piling is 5 feet, which is on sheet S4, your drafts person has that dimension at 5 foot from the concrete pile to the property line.
Well, as you see there, sir, there's a 53-foot area.
Mhm.
It's very easily, this is the ultimate of what he would like. I realize that there's a little give and take, and he needs to realize that.
Sure.
We won't make that 53-foot space in between the two piers. So if I give you another 6 or 8 feet that way,
Well,
You know
Here's,
what I mean?
here's our problem. We can only vote on what's presented to us tonight. We may collectively as a conversation talk about modifications if that's so desired, but so all we can comment on and vote on is what's actually been presented to us. So I think the two question areas that Norbert's referencing are the boat lift on
The south side.
the south side, and then the 9-foot setback from the other side, is that finger pier becomes useless on the outside because
Well, that's
obviously-
9 foot to the, it's 9 foot to the pile.
To the pile, so
Yeah.
there's no plans for mooring anything on that side because again, you're doing
No,
something.
there isn't at all.
So what was the thought, just so we're all clear, on the 53-foot? What was the idea for having such a large area between these finger piers?
At some point, I believe now, it's a single-family resident. He's not looking to do any kind of rental or anything. I believe in the future, there will be a smaller lift or perhaps a personal watercraft lift. There's been discussion in making a lower section of the dock there for kayak and, that type of watercraft, personal watercraft implies with a motor. Mostly kayaks and paddleboard. They're talking about lowering that 10-foot section in there. So he would like that as like a little alcove. So, that was the discussion at this point.
You couldn't put another lift on that property and stuff over there. You only have one per 100-some feet.
Another variance request.
Yeah, without a variance. The thing that I was saying, what size is that boat lift?
That's a 30K lift.
30,000 pounds.
30,000 pounds. So if you put that boat in stern, what Ted is talking about, that boat is gonna be well outside. You're probably gonna have 10 feet of boat out beyond that boat lift, because the motors and stuff over there are right on the stern, on the back of the lift. And it's, depending on the size of the boat, it's gonna extend at least another 10 feet out there. I know I have a 26-foot boat and it's over 8 feet. So out on the front, if it's out that way, I think that boat lift that you have is too close to the property. And also, it's not following the property line, it's actually going perpendicular to the property. Yeah, I have that one right here. I said, when I'm looking at that boat lift, if that's the property line, it's on the side and stuff on what
We
you're
were
talking
talking
about right
feet.
there, it turns and it
We're
goes
talking 2 to 3
perpendicular.
feet. That could be taken from the 53-foot area there. You know, it's not
Yeah,
like,
well, it would have to be.
and I'd be more than willing to make a stipulation to do that, to not to waste the board's time on the matter. Again, I understand the fact that what you have to approve is what's in front of you. I know I've done in the past, we've stipulated some facts as part of the agreement, and we adhere to them. I also have to give the Army Corps of Engineer an as-built as part of my agreement with them, which I'd be happy to share with the board at that point, when I have to give them the new XY coordinates to prove to everybody that it meets the standards that we're looking to achieve here.
Let's go back to the board for discussions. I see a couple guys with their kind of heads are up, so. Any other questions or comments from the board on this issue? Jimmy?
Yeah, I agree with Norbert as far as that the boat lift is the issue. I definitely would like, in the future, would be to come back with either a letter of, from the south side neighbor, or at least a drawing, to see what's there. Because again, and to refresh us with what it was that we approved, as well, to go in there. Because I know that was a bit contentious when we did that with the neighbors that were around there. And this potentially, a 30,000-pound lift's a pretty big boat, that could be a.
I'm sorry, sir, I can't hear you.
Yeah, the boat that could go in there is a pretty large boat, could be a 45-foot, even a 50-foot boat at 30,000 pounds. And the riparian rights of the neighbor are important to go out, because this is the whole end of this, canal, all the pie-shaped lots that are there. It needs to be fair for everybody as far as what they get.
Including him.
Yeah, including him, yes. But I think that the angle that the boat lift is on would be, just as the current status now of the dock that's there, actually the finger pier that goes out follows, it's closer to following the property line than going perpendicular like this one is. You know, perhaps even putting the finger pier on the south side and putting the boat lift, I'm just throwing out an idea, put the boat lift on the north side, which would assure that the boats, nothing's gonna impede into the neighbors' ingress and egress to their dock as well. Yeah, I mean, I think that it needs to, that thing needs to be addressed better. The boat lift, the way that the boat lift is positioned, and it needs to be addressed better. And the,
Well, like I said, I'd like to propose that Army Corps requires that I give them a new as-built when I do that. So I would make these changes, salutes.
See, I wouldn't wanna see that boat lift, or the dock on that other side too. because
And bring it back to Andrew and,
If you put the boat
hopefully-
dock on the other side, on the south
and then,
side, you could actually put a boat on the other side over there, which again, would be inside of that setback. In other words, once you put a dock out there, you're encouraging docking and stuff on the opposite side.
Right.
At least the boat lift and stuff over there, nobody's gonna put a boat next to the boat lift. What needs to be done, the only thing I see is to move that 53-foot in and turn the boat lift in the direction of the property line and make sure that the bow of the boat or whatever else is everything is
be
in
within
that
10 feet.
right area. That would be my recommendation.
All right. Any other conversation or comments from anyone else? Mike, I see you eyeballing the plans there.
Just trying to understand it all, that's all.
Do we have any letters of support or objections? Andrew?
I don't recall seeing those in the submission.
Not either.
No. But as far as objections go, once again, I publicly noticed all properties within 300 feet and did not hear from any of the neighboring properties that they were concerned.
All right, so a couple of issues we have, I think that I've gone around the table here and heard, and I think they all kind of revolve around the interface between the property line, the setbacks, and the boat lift on that one side. Is that fair enough to say?
One thing to state is that I don't have any problem with the 30-foot. In other words, what they're going for,
Right.
the extra part of there, but it's the sides really is the issue, and the position of the stuff that's in there.
Yeah.
The extra feet that they're asking for, I'm good with that.
Yeah, I think, Norbert, you have the same issue with the boat lift being the primary concern that you've got?
Yeah, on the south side of the
Yep.
property. The other side, everything else seems to be compliant. I'm still up in the air on the 53 feet, why that was put right on the edge, but besides the point. But I said, that's the thing. I said, I don't think the waiver on the outside and everything else is a problem. I think it's that boat lift.
No.
So it's, the problem we have tonight, I think, folks, is that the boat lift in question, because of the unique shape and unique position of this lot in the pie-shaped area in this area, we cannot vote yay on an item that is intruding on the setbacks. We don't have that ability to do that. So I think it's my recommendation that we table this for tonight. Recommend that the applicant bring back a modified plan that shows these moved out of the setback zone and clearly the showing that structure. 'Cause there's no way we can vote yes on this tonight, unfortunately, because of the setback issue. So I would like to recommend that we table this and get with, Andrew, can you get with the applicant and discuss the path forward then?
Sure, yes.
All right. So I have a motion to table this. Do I have a second? Steve Witten, second. Any other discussion on tabling this item? All in favor of tabling? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, motion for tabling has passed. So this item is tabled for future discussion. So please work with Andrew on getting the modifications discussed, and just, it'll be a quick back in here, we can move forward at that point.
She'll come back to you guys next month.
Yeah, the first Thursday of next month.
That'd be great.
Please.
If you have any questions at all, please talk to Andrew, and he'll
Yes,
set you
yes.
straight on what
Okay.
we've got to do.
All right, folks, thank you for your time.
Thank you very much, Frank. Appreciate your time tonight. Okay. We have a presentation. Very excited about this, actually. Lindsay, would you mind coming on up and introducing yourself and introducing your project and their presentation and Bring us a little beauty into our room.
Thank you. Thanks. Hello, everyone. I'm Leslie Fordham. I'm with Broward County. I'm the Public Art Administrator. I've got a PowerPoint here, and I'm going to show you some pictures of lighting projects that we're intending to do on bridges here in Fort Lauderdale. So I'll just
I've had a sneak peek and they're gorgeous. It's really neat.
Okay. Let's see. So who are we? If you haven't heard of the Public Art and Design Program before, we've been around for more than 45 years now. Primarily, we put artwork in the airport, which most people have seen if you're traveling, Port Everglades, the county libraries, various county buildings, and sometimes on the streets and roads. Again, we've been around for 45 years, since the early mid-70s. And I'll just show you some examples of projects that we've done in the past that feature lighting. This is at the Convention Center and at Port Everglades. This is artwork that actually the light moves forward through each of the panels, and at some point it crosses the international time zone on the map, and then there's a light performance at that time. It's really pretty cool. Also Port Everglades. And just west of 95 in Dillard Green Space off of Sunrise, this lighted artwork. So we've got a couple projects in progress. Andrews Avenue Bridge, the artist is Susan Arduli. Some pictures of the bridge, I'm sure you all know where it is. It is county-owned road. And the artist has come up with an interactive design. Unfortunately, I don't have a video, but she's addressing the piers here. And the light will be actually behind some metal panels, and it will move and change. It will change for different holidays and be very interactive and dynamic. The county was also intending to do some renovations to the 3rd Avenue Bridge, and we were able to put a budget aside for a potential art project there as well. And it seemed to make a whole lot of sense to hire the same artist and have the two bridges speak to each other. Now, this is a preliminary design. It's not approved yet. The artist recently met with people on the south side of the New River and got a different take on who the artwork should be for, who the audience is. And as a result, we've launched a survey. Love for you all to take it. We're really pushing it out there to a lot of people, asking them to respond as to whether or not they see the artwork on the North Bank, the South Bank, or both. Again, very interactive. This will move. It'll have the ability to change lights for different holidays. And of course, people will be walking underneath the bridge. And then E. Clay Shaw Bridge, 17th Street Causeway. Right now, we don't have a budget for this project, but we have shortlisted 3 artists. And the intention is to ask them for their design proposals. One will be selected. We have a 9-member artist selection panel for this project. And some money to investigate how much it's going to cost to actually do the artwork project. And then we'll do some fundraising, go to our county administration and others to attempt to get funding for the project. So of course, I'm sure you know the bridge. It's close to our convention center, and a new wing of the convention center is under construction right now. The existing building's being renovated inside, and it's been extended. More shots of the bridge here. I mentioned that we have a 9-member artist selection panel. This slide just tells you a bit about our process. The Board of County Commissioners allocates the fund. We collaborate with our county agencies. In this case, we're collaborating with FDOT because FDOT owns the E. Clay Shaw Bridge. We've talked to them about what it would take to put lighting on their bridge, what their parameters are. We set up an artist selection panel for each project. It's usually not 9 members, but in this case, we wanted to be very inclusive and include a lot of members of the community. And then we shortlist artists to apply in response to what's called a call to artists. We ask them for design proposals. The artist selection panel takes a look at those proposals, interviews the artist, and when all goes well, one artist is selected. We usually go right to contracts, but in this case, as I mentioned, we don't have the funding, but we do have enough to hire the artist to do further investigation to find out how much their design proposal is going to cost. So I mentioned the call to artist. 3 artists who are shortlisted, and I will quickly show you some of their past work. Cliff Garden, very accomplished in lighting projects. I think he's got degrees from Harvard, MIT, and Stanford. So he's a unicorn. He still might be a starving artist, but yes. Andrea Poli has recently won some awards, and again, I wish you could see the videos because I feel like the pictures just don't do justice. Try to imagine, if you can, these lights moving and walking through the space and how exciting it could be. And she actually is a university professor in New Mexico, but also an accomplished public artist that works primarily in light. And then finally, Erwin Riedel. So, as I mentioned, we're putting some surveys out to the community. I'll be sending a link to Andrew so he could distribute it to everybody. I hope you'll take the surveys, tell us what you think should happen on the bridge. We're asking questions like, did you ever have a memorable experience around the bridge, or what are your thoughts of the bridge? But also, what kind of lights would you like to see here? Do you want just white lights? Would you like colored lights? Would you like just red, white, and blue? Originally what FDOT told us that they had to be, but we've since done some investigation and found out that it's possible to do something more than just that. And Andrew asked me to keep this presentation short, but I do have pictures of bridges and light projects throughout the world.
Could you distribute this PowerPoint to us, please? Yeah.
Focus there. This one's in Iowa. We've used this artist on another project at Port Everglades, not a lighting project. And that's it. Thank you very much.
Those are the bridges that we need to be better than.
Absolutely.
Bridge and chat is tough to beat. It's
Yeah.
got interactive water and everything else.
You have all these beautiful bridges and stuff, it's a shame you can't talk to the railroads to doing something with that piece of junk that's in there.
So Leslie, I have a question. When we go through the lighting plans and the proposals and all that, and you talk to stakeholders,
Yes.
do you involve the U.S. Coast Guard with regards to lighting for navigational purposes?
Yeah, absolutely. We've reached out to them already.
Okay.
Yes.
Great.
And if there's anyone else that you think we should be talking to, any stakeholders, groups like the Coast Guard, FDOT, and beyond those that we've already spoken to, we would greatly appreciate your assistance there.
Sure. We'd be happy to voice it.
Could you put something up in a hurry on the Los Olas Bridge for the Winterfest Parade? Our theme this year is in the neon category.
Let me show you that slide for our process.
Process.
And our 40-page agreement.
Yeah. It's a little lengthy. I think it's a beautiful project, and it's exciting to see some beautiful color brought to the waterway. Very interested in following that. Robin?
Business for the Arts of Broward.
Yes.
Might be a stakeholder if you haven't already.
Thank you very much. We're working closely with Jared Levan.
And I don't know if the Broward MAP funds could possibly go towards this. Because it's related to transportation.
The penny sales tax,
Uh-huh.
maybe. They're pretty tough on using those for projects that are already approved by MPO, but it's something to look into. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. And then, is there any consideration to do something in addition to the lighting or different from the lighting? I'm just thinking about the daytime and there being some activation during the day as well as the night.
Yes, in fact, at the convention center, they've asked for something under the bridge, so there could be a mural for the E. Clay Shaw Bridge, 17th Street Causeway. That might be possible with the other two bridges, as funding allows. We can certainly plan for that kind of thing.
Thank you.
Any other question? Ms. George?
Knowing that the garage that we have on Las Solas down by the beach, the lights are continuously not fully lit, who manages the lights that are gonna be on all of these different bridges to make sure that they, number one, actually change to the right colors or the right whatever, and that light bulbs are not all out so that it looks half-assed?
Yes. Well, again, I'm with the county, and that garage might be a city project. 3rd Avenue, Andrews Avenue Bridge, and the 4th, 7th Bridge, those are county roads. So we'll be maintaining them. And the artist will have a computer link, so if for some reason there was a blip, and she's very, very accomplished, I would think that is going to happen rarely, but she'll be able to reset from her studios in California.
Excellent.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for Ms. Fordham from the board? Members of the public, any questions for?
I believe Andrea from your list did the Tampa Riverwalk, and it's a 1.5 miles along the river that's lit up absolutely phenomenally, and it really brought a ton of business. It's similar to our Riverwalk. It brings tons of people running at night. It's safe, it's comfortable. The businesses there just flourish, and when you're coming in by boat, it's sensational. So I think this is going to be fantastic for the new river.
All right, any other?
I just wanted to introduce myself. I'm Ed Rebholz. I'm running for District 4. I came to see what's on your agenda. I'm doing this with not all the groups, but I'm always learning, always meeting people. I've enjoyed the waterways in Fort Lauderdale for a long time. I've dove, I fish, I boat, and it's just a beautiful way to live. And, we live on Lauderdale Harbors, where I'm president of the association. And your comments about renting docks, that's a big issue with us. We have docks, people renting docks, and it's kind of morphosized into marinas at this point. And we're fighting that. It's not an issue. There was 12 trucks parked on their driveway and in the street just this week, taking care of the number of boats.
And not to cut you off, but that would be, we could talk about those things under old or new business. Just trying to get Ms. Fordham's presentation done and all that, but definitely I want to hear your thoughts on that.
Important issues.
Absolutely. So if we just finish up on Ms. Fordham's presentation and any other comments or conversations or requests for Ms. Fordham?
Great, thank you.
Thank you very much. We look forward to getting more information from you. Thank you very much. Okay, now, moving into old and new business. Ed, I'll return the floor to you so you can continue with your conversation there.
The waterway is just very important to this community. No doubt about it. I'm a builder all my life. I've moved around the country. My background is I did 20 years with Anheuser-Busch, ran breweries, Anheuser-Busch. Last brewery I ran was in Newark. And at that point, it was the 5th largest brewery. I went from there into technology and ran a few companies in technologies. Bought my own and developed product and sold it to Cisco, and with that I retired down here, full-time. I've been a resident. Parents moved us here in 1960. Grew up over in Riverland Road area, went to St. Thomas, and then over the last 27, 28 years, we've had a place on the east side of the city. And now we live in Lauderdale Harbors on 14th Street. So I'm going around to all kinds of, I'm interviewing most of the department heads. I'm trying to get on with the chief of police next week, fire department, sewer and water, and see what's on their agenda. And see if I do get elected, I'll be able to help. All right?
Thank you for coming tonight, appreciate it. All right, so going back to old new business, I have a related subject to bring up under new business. We're this was a hot topic item that was created a lot of stir. This was the 22-0844 dock ordinance discussion that was previously going to be going to the city commission on their agenda for a first reading. I saw it on their agenda, and that's when I requested Andrew to reach out. They did table it for that meeting and agreed that we should look at it. I have been in further communications with Chris Cooper, who is the director over there, and CFO Rural Development Services Department, and he has advised me that the item has been removed completely from the commission's agenda for the foreseeable future. It's a dead issue as of right now. They're gonna pull it completely, and what they wanna do is they wanna look at that ordinance change going forward, because there is some good stuff in there, and there's some stuff that's extremely contentious and open for a lot of discussion. So what they envision happening is we're going to reconcile the code language first regarding dock rentals. As you know, right now, Volume 1 of the code specifies RS 4.4 and RS 8 as the two zoning areas, residential zoning areas that are not allowed to have dock rentals. And there's some contradictory language, if you will, in the second part of the code for that. So they're looking at getting some of those things straight. But they are looking at having some stakeholders, having some feedback. MAB will be involved in that discussion as well. I know they're going to reach out to industry, they're going to reach out to neighborhoods, they're going to reach out to homeowners associations and get a lot more feedback before they move forward with it. So I think that's going to be and we will continue to watch and monitor. I have spoken with the mayor directly about it and asked him to make sure that we are directly engaged in those efforts moving forward. Chris Cooper has reached out to me directly as well as to Andrew to ensure that we will, as MAB, be involved in those discussions and be able to see those, the raw information coming in, the raw comments coming in. So I know it's, I received personally a ton of information, a ton of calls on it. I know other board members did the same. So both for and against. So it's kind of one of those issues of, wow, we gotta take a step back, slow the roll down a little bit and get a lot more data points. So that's the plan right now. So I know as you guys, MISF and other stakeholders will be involved in this discussion also. The message back to them is it's tabled pending a lot more look and a lot more talk. So we're good on that. So no fire hoses needed or anything like that at this point on that issue. Having said that, it's important to note that the current statute, the current ordinance stands as it is right now. So there are stipulations in there with regards to work, with regards to number of vessels, with regard to number of structures, rental of docks, all those things are still there to be enforced by code enforcement should the need arise. So that's going to continue on with that. So hopefully that we'll see some solutions on that in the future. Everyone can kind of come to and say, yeah, there's some compromises to be made, and I'm okay with this, I'm not okay with that. But we'll see what, as a community, what we can do to resolve those questions. Any other old or new business to discuss from the board first?
Can we comment on that?
Please, yeah, Bob, go ahead.
Okay, I went through all this and I've got some concerns here. Currently, RS 4.4, RS 8 is restricted for dock rentals. Now, what they came up with was all these other coded areas, which includes Isle of Venice, Hendricks Isle. So now you're gonna say you can't rent a dock, you really have been doing it forever.
Right.
You have areas where, well, in my neighborhood, I'm in RS 6.85A, Lauderdale Isles.
Lauderdale Isles.
And basically, we were annexed into the city in 2002. At that time, there was a intention of the state senate is that the Lauderdale Isles remain with the same, how would you say, basically the same community standards as it had before. And dock rentals were, they were not restricted. And big point here is, all right, where there's an issue, let's address it. Where there's not an issue, why are we coming up with all these big restrictions? It doesn't make any sense. That's one of my biggest concerns right there. We have there again, if somebody has a property, if they want to rent their house, if they want to have an Airbnb, if they want to have a home business, people use their houses for a variety of reasons. If you can rent your dock and it's not a nuisance for somebody else, then is that a problem? All right. What you get into, though, in Lauderdale Isles, we have a yacht broker across the river who's got about, in the town of Davie, he's got a residential area, he's got a house, and he's got about 12 boats, 12, 15 boats. Our neighborhood fought that with the city of Davie, and it's just a matter of time before they try to sneak it down and make that marine commercial. I don't know. Well, the same yacht broker bought a house across the river on Gulf Street. Lane, he's got 3 to 4 yachts there at one time. The neighbors were complaining about where the diver was there, the fuel truck was there, the interior decorating people were there. There was people all day long. I know that's what you're.
That's exactly what happened. We took a blind
that's
eye to the dock rentals, and it's gotten out of control.
Okay, well, that's what we need to key in on. There's a couple other things real quick before we get into more of that. Is you have the situation where there, you have one boat per 100 feet. What if somebody's got a 65-foot sport fish and a 20-foot tender? You can't have a second boat there?
Well, they've already told us that provision is not gonna go forward, period.
Okay.
That's been pulled, and Bob, just to give you a little background, so I asked for background on that, and that stems from the existing rule that talks about, and Norbert kind of referred to this, with the one mooring structure per 100 feet. So the writer of this kind of took a little bit of license, shall we say, with that, and converted it to one vessel per 100 feet, which impacts every single person in Rio Vista, every single person in virtually every neighborhood around has a little boat and a big boat. I do. I've got a little bit of a big boat, both within the setbacks, so they're legal. Under the new provision, they would not be. So I think that was a big outcry. All the condos, Las Olas, all those areas were all screaming bloody murder about this. So that provision is not going to move forward from my understanding, and the new language.
Well, they have another section here about repair and maintenance of watercraft, and struck out a bunch of verbiage here, and they wrote, repair or maintenance, whether major or minor, shall be permitted in residential areas if such necessary work is conducted wholly within the confines of a permanent enclosed structure, so long as the work complies with applicable city ordinances. Does this mean every boat has to have, be inside some structure if you're gonna hose it off?
Yeah, I asked Chris about that as well, and basically, they're gonna be revisiting that portion as well. And what they're gonna be focusing on primarily is major vessel repair, refits, painting, environmental concerns, those things, and commercial charters and liveaboards in areas that are not permitted. So they're gonna kind of refine their view a little bit, and they admit that it's poorly written in the way it was done, and needs to be looked at with industry feedback before it goes to the city commission.
Okay, good.
So it's gonna be a much lengthier process, and we'll certainly, those comments are, you're basically echoing 10,000 comments that have been made already, to people on Facebook and everything else.
Right, I mean, I've got more comments.
Oh, yeah.
We're all on the same page.
Yeah, absolutely.
If we just hear, you got a few more comments about that?
Well, we have
Ed,
You've already talked there.
these marinas that have, 8 boats on the back.
Yeah.
Completely full. We have one gentleman that bought 2 houses and he has 8 boats back there. The guy from, across from where I live, I'm on 14th Street. Across from me, put 3 boats parallel to the dock. And it intruded into the canal, seriously. So where it started is boat rentals are not allowed. Well, this one we're gonna allow, this one we're gonna allow, this one. Now we have charter boat operations.
Uh-huh.
And when they're on, a couple of them on Cordova, and so they're parking on their grass, they're parking with two wheels on the Cordova. When you have the big marinas, there's times when there's a dozen trucks are doing working on that. And there's one that came in, it was a huge one, over 13th, and the bow of the boat was over the bridge. And it was just way too big, way too
All right,
big.
is there a way to distinguish between a commercial boat, a homeowner's boat, a rental, I mean,
It is a problem. We've been fighting the marinas, we call, and we had them in our favor. They cleared everything out. They were assessed a fine, and they complied. There was by the city attorney overruled the rulings. We don't know much more about that. We weren't invited to that hearing. So we were a little miffed. We had cleaned out all the marinas, we call them marinas, and renting multiple docks. The problem I see too, houses in Lauderdale harbors, the old guild houses, you can buy for, $1.2 million, $1.4 million, and what's on the other side and size of the lot. You could rent that house for $5,000 to $8,000, and you could rent the dock for multiples of that. And so for a business to come in and invest $1.2 million, put a nice dock out back, whatever, it's a good business. It's a nice return on that investment. And what we've seen is more and more, and where we are, it takes these 7-8 minutes to get out to the ocean. We're prime marina building area. It's just so it's a residential area.
Okay. So,
And we have when you mentioned people have rented their docks and we have the same issue. But we can't go and say, kick out the marinas because they're renting the docks and it's okay for everybody else to rent.
Right. Well, your area is kind of a fairly small area.
It is.
And your zone for your particular area, would you be in favor of your area prohibiting dock rentals versus the rest of the whole city?
And I've always, I'm president of the community association. My track is, my big problem is the marinas. And sit there at the entrance of we have 179 houses on 3 aisles, and blocking one of those roads to get in. And instead of a 2-lane road, we got 1-lane road. And it happens often.
So, Bob, in the interest of moving forward here this evening, this issue is going to be something we can't certainly resolve in one evening. I think there's a lot of debate that's got to happen, a lot of interest stakeholders have to speak up, both the city commission meetings as well as town halls that they're talking about having. So the conversation for people, and people ask me, well, how do I direct my comments? Where do I direct my comments? And my stock answer to them is to your city commissioner, because the city commissioners will be hearing these discussions and will be looking for that input. If officially asked us, they're going to be talking to the various associations and things. So at your association, I'm sure is going to be invited to that table.
Maybe I'll be on the board by then too.
You never know. You never know. But I do want to move the issue forward. So this issue has been kind of killed for right now. So we'll go ahead and talk about other things.
And when I hear
Andrew?
about this issue, I will send emails to the entire board. Remember not to reply all. If you have something that you want to express it through me, and I'll get it out to the rest of you.
Sunshine law has to be adhered to for those conversations. So.
Would you hear for the public for 1 second?
Board's not done yet, so you're certainly welcome to speak, but as soon as I get to the public here in a minute, so thank you. On this issue, any other comments, Ms. George?
The only comment I wanted to make was there was a discussion at a pre-commission meeting specifically about how this was handled. They were happy that people brought it forward to the commissioner at his pre-commission meeting. But one of the biggest complaints people had wasn't necessarily the content of it, was the fact that it didn't come here first.
Right.
There was a lot, and this was a very specific example, but people actually brought up multiple other committees as well, and they felt that I guess it's the city attorney that makes the determination of whether it goes direct to the commission or comes to these committees. That was stated at this meeting, and that was a very big concern, and people felt if it if it applies to the water or anything near it, it better be coming here. And people that don't even own boats were pretty adamant about that at the pre-commission meeting.
So when as the chair, I try to stay somewhat aware of what's going on at the city commission level for meetings and things. Either I have to go speak, on issues that are marine related, or just for general info, try to be aware of it. And this particular agenda item caught my eye because it hadn't been here. And, when we go back, and I just want to quickly, because that comment did come back, well, we didn't think it needed to be the MMP. It's not a dock waiver, it's not this. The purpose of the Marine Advisory Board, per our official charter, is to study and recommend the city commission on all phases of operation, activities, regulations, advertising, and publicity of the waterways of the city. So it certainly falls directly within the purview of this board to hear and comment on those issues. And they, both Commissioner Glassman and the mayor were very supportive of that, so that was good to hear. Any other comments from Jimmy?
Yes, one other thing tagging along on that is that the docks that were proposed at Salt 7, that, just to let you know that the city there's work going on as far as on what they're going to do. That was something that came to our board and we rejected it. And then it was going back around through the Army Corps of Engineers, which would have bypassed the city. That was stopped through the Coast Guard. It's now come back to be an issue, and I'm assured that that issue will come before this board before any decision is made at the commission level.
Excellent.
So that is something that, on the light of that, it needs to come by this board. So.
Was that at the Icon? Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, that's the Icon property. Yeah, there's been exhaustive talks about that, and so it'll come back to us. I've been assured of that as well, so thank you. Any other comments on this issue from the board? All right, from the public, if you could please state your name, come up here and state your name for us.
My name is Michael Feinstein. I live at 606 Riviera Isles. We have about 144 homes back there. Been living there for 20 years. I'm the guy that got the first citation on the new RIB. I made a complaint. Just moved in. 20 years I've docked boats back there. Typically one boat. They don't live aboard. People just moved in, new boat. There 3 or 4 days. They complained. Mr. Fernandez came in, and to answer your question how they do it, they issue a citation. I had 2 violations as an RS8 zoning member. Can't have a boat docked in my backyard, and you can't live on the boat. In fact, Officer Fernandez told me that if I owned a boat and I wanted to sleep on the boat in my own backyard, that's a violation of the code. Made some calls about this because now what's happening, if it's going to be selective enforcement, this whole city will shut down because you can't, pick and choose who you're going to complain about. If people are going to start getting cited, then the boat next door is in violation. 2 doors down, 1 door. Half of the city rent their docks. So I've had some conversations. Phil Purcell spoke to Phil. He indicated there is a disconnect already because he thought they were passing an alternate ordinance that would turn this into similar to transient rentals, where the city would collect a fee and they would control the dock rentals. Now, obviously, what you're talking about is a huge problem, but if you have 1 boat in your backyard and you're renting, I'm a homeowner, 1 boat, no live aboard, no construction, none of that, but to help to pay those massive taxes, half of the people in the city of Fort Lauderdale do that. And then you got the vacation rental industry that advertise on the internet. You have to shut them down. And our city, the Venice of North America, the boating capital of the world, and the city all of a sudden is going to shut down the maritime industry. And get this, realtors. So if I'm a realtor and I sell a home and someone wants to dock their boat there, and they don't mention the ordinance, and the city comes in, every one of those realtors that sold a waterfront home for the last 2 years could be sued for negligence. We're not letting the homeowner know in advance that it's a violation of the ordinance to rent your dock. So now you're going to have an addendum in every general contract that the realtors are going to have to tell the prospective buyers, you can't rent your dock, and if you do, by the way, it's $150 a day for the 1 violation, and there was another $150 a day for the live aboard violation. They gave me 7 days to move the boat. I moved the boat. But now we have the boat show. So all the people that are renting their boats to the boat show people, do they get to rent their docks? Well, I had to push that boat off. So it's going to turn into a war if we don't regulate it. And I think our economy and our industry, why don't we just do the same thing like transient rental and control it? So it's not out of control, where the docks aren't being used in a commercial fashion, but people can do it to help pay the bills. Otherwise, the whole city's going to shut down. Who's going to pick and choose? Are the neighbors are going to start complaining on each other? And then Officer Fernandez, that's senior code enforcement officer with the city, is now gonna go out and start citing everybody. There's gotta be a better line of communication, because right now, what the MIA is suggesting, it's been met with deaf ears. And I spoke to Mayor Seiler, who's a colleague of mine, and I ran this past him, and he said during his term, the city did not enforce the rule, and he thought it was a great idea to regulate it, not only to generate fixed income for the city every year, but for safety. The biggest issue with boats is catching on fire or fuel. Well, now if you've got a information sheet from each boat owner that rents, just like the transient people, you got their insurance, you got their emergency contact information. If the boat stops running and the boat starts sinking, you know who to call. It would be phenomenal. I mean, if you charge $500, how many boats do you guys think we have that are rentals? Thousands. It would be millions of dollars. The city would have fixed income every year and can control it. But to start picking and choosing and passing these kinds of ordinances, it's going to create a war with the neighbors. And someone like me, 20 yeyears, I've never had an issue until the new neighbor moved in and complained. And Officer Fernandez, very polite, said, "I'm sorry, they complained. You got to move the boat."
Thank you for your comments and your perspective. I appreciate that very much. Anyone else from the public? Okay. Under old or new business, any other topics to discuss from the
Just
board?
everybody stay safe, we're still in the hurricane season.
We
I
are.
said I was, just got back from the West Coast, and you'd be surprised, I said, in the area we are, everybody thought that the hurricane was going into Tampa, and all the people in the area I was at in Port Charlotte and everything going over there, they figured everything was going to Tampa, and they were what the weather forecasters say, oh, we're on the clean side of the storm, we're not going to get anything, and then moved south and went in there. I've seen people, believe it or not, tied 40-foot, 50-foot boats up with extension cords, all right, to think the boat had. And if you noticed, I said one of the things I was looking at, stuff over there, that's something you can't do, we have to look at it. The storm surge came up over the top, it's loading docks. The dock came over and up over the top of the pile, and it took off. The pile there, they're fine. So that they weren't high enough. But I mean, I've seen people then fill propane tanks for their generators and everything else. Say why? They thought the hurricane was going somewhere else. So I'm just as a caution for the people that are in here. We had some of our most devastating hurricanes in this month. Wilma was one that came through there, and so I'm saying is when they say be prepared, and you have that be prepared. There's so many people over there just we're not, and they felt the brunt of it. So
Owning a boat is a privilege and a responsibility.
I couldn't believe it when I was looking, and I said, what did this guy have? The boat was up on top of a guy's house and everything else, and there was extension cords tied all over the cleats and stuff over there. And I said, I can't believe somebody would tie a boat up with an extension cord. So,
I guess.
And on the
Robin?
topic of the hurricane, I'm helping my daughter's school collect items, and they're gonna be sending a truck over there at the end of next week. So if anybody has, I'm down here every morning. If anybody has any items they'd like to donate, paper towels, diapers, wipes, stuff like that, I'd be happy to come by and collect it.
Great, excellent. Okay, anything else for this evening? Okay, motion to adjourn? All in favor?
Aye.
Adjourn.
you
17.